tell us about your experience of young people getting involved in local democracy?
Well, when I was a supply teacher in a local school in my own authority where I was a community councillor, I had a certain sort of relationship built with the children. I explained to them, you know, how I worked out with schools, and they became very interested. In fact, I would say very intrigued. And we discussed other issues that I was dealing with, and I offered them, because of the particular topics that were undertaking at the time, I asked them if they would have any suggestions and how would they achieve success in tackling certain problems. And many of them made suggestions that actually I eventually panned out, and we even gave them opportunities to become involved in, for example, a crime prevention panel I was part of because I was a community councillor. And the children then got involved with certain initiatives, and then panned out throughout the whole schools. But we set up recycling of paper within the schools, with, of course, the head teacher's permission. But because I had access to councillors, they facilitated that. And it made a big difference because the children felt as if they could then tackle problems, and the success was, in fact, what encouraged them to go on and think more about the community.
And do you think that the issues that were brought up were different because of the fact that they were young people?
Yes, because the children do see things only in terms of black and white. There's no grey areas. And I think, to be perfectly blunt, I think that's the best way to tackle issues in communities, because it's not about self-enhancement, it's not about becoming more powerful than the next person, it's about caring for each other. And it maybe sounds a bit of the idealism of it all, but that's how children perceive it. And I suppose that's how I perceive it. And I think the most important people in any community are the young. And because I got involved because of my own, looking after the interests of my own children, as well as the other children that I used to always teach in schools, because they were always my passion as well as my job. And I felt it was important they had a voice. That's it in a nutshell, really.
What do you think are the challenges of getting more young people or more different people involved?
It's very difficult because I say that certainly if children in primary 6 and primary 7, they're very passionate. You can actually engage with that passion, and you can use it to sort of develop, but people don't tend to give them that voice. They think they're too young to be able to think in a clear fashion, but they will never be controlled because they have their own ideas and idealisms, and I think that's important to use that. But also in secondary schools, you can still do that, because again, I've got secondary schools of my primary children who then went to secondary school. I went to them and asked their help a few times with different initiatives in the community, and they helped me out with a few things with their ideas. But then exams take hold and the timetables are too intense, especially in our area, where achieving exam passes is the most important thing, and the pressures on them are too great. I think that's a shame, because then certain idealism is lost, and they're sort of they compromise principles because they're forced into that situation.
So you think childhood and then again at retirement is the time that people have?
Well, I think so. Retirement, I never really. I'm still involved as much. I was involved as much even when I was doing supply teaching, because I never gave it up. I always felt that it was important. If there was something affected my own children or anybody else's children in the area, I dealt with it, and I dealt with it directly, and I never gave up until I got a satisfactory conclusion to any particular issue that I dealt with. I hope that helps.